Ramayana is one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India and an important text of Hinduism. It narrates the life of Sri Rama, a legendary prince of Ayodhya in the kingdom of Kosala. The epic follows his 14-year exile to the forest urged by his father, King Dasharatha, on the request of Rama's stepmother, Kaikeyi. His travels across the forest in India with his wife Sita and brother Lakshmana, the kidnapping of Sita by Ravana, the king of Lanka, that resulted in the war, and Rama's eventual return to Ayodhya to be crowned the king amidst jubilation and celebration. What we will look at today is a story that would link us to the Ramayana and a story that happened prior to the Ramayana and how it plants a seed into the Ramayana. So stay till the end for the big reveal, and also please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel if you like the video. In Darbhanga, today's Bihar, there lived a poor brahmin with very limited means. Even though he was really poor, he was really a gentleman and kind-natured man. And even in his poverty, he was not angered or jealous at anyone. His wife was also a very devotional human being, and because of that, their household was very peaceful. They had no sad feelings that they were poor. The husband used to tell her that it's my destiny that I have been poor in this lifetime, and his wife, who was also very well natured, she also concurred with her husband, stating that it was her destiny too that was affected. If you think about today's world, it would be another way around. Each spouse may blame the other one for their misfortunes, but in this case, each spouse was understanding of the other, that it was both of their destinies that were intertwined into poverty. The reason to this was that their minds were devotional, and when a mind gets to be devotional, then a person doesn't go looking at the fault of others, but looks at oneself as to how he could fix his or her own faults. Such a poverty-stricken Brahmin never got an ounce of greed in his own mind. His mind was full of hymns in praise of God. His wife used to love her husband's hymns, and they were really pleasant to the ear. In such poverty also, he used to be respected around the village. The reason was mainly due to the person being surrendered to God and not expecting anything back, even though they lived a life of such a poverty. And being in such a poverty-stricken state, the couple were blessed with a child of their own, and this news brought them a lot of happiness, as they didn't have any children for several years of their marriage. The Brahmin then said to his wife that it doesn't matter if it is a boy or a girl, but it's a very happy occasion that we have had a child after such a long time. And so at the time of the pregnancy, they had to seek the help of a midwife, and they found a midwife known to them. There was an important role for the midwife to be playing during those times, considering there were not many medical advancements during those times. So the childbirth was pretty tricky considering the age of the mother, and even though birth was complicated, the midwife helped them to deliver a healthy baby out of all the complications that arose. The Brahmin was very happy that the baby arrived and was specifically not worried whether it was a boy or a girl. Even though it was a boy, the Brahmin was very happy with himself. So at the time, the midwife had a wish that she could be paid handsomely for her services. The midwife then, through her gaze of expectation while presenting the baby to the Brahmin, silently hinted to get paid for her services. The Brahmin, looking in her direction, told her that I understand what's on your mind, but I am really helpless as of today. I have nothing to give to you, but I promise this one thing, that this boy, when he grows up, his first earning, I will give it over to you. Hearing this, the midwife was shocked. When will this boy grow up? The baby is just born today, and then the baby will be growing up, and then he will be earning, after which I will be getting paid. It seemed a very far-fetched idea to her. The Brahmin continued, "It's a Brahmin's promise. In those days, a Brahmin's words were valued to the utmost honesty, but the midwife felt very strange as to the time period of the promise, as she had not heard of such a promise in her entire career of being a midwife. So she agreed to his words, mainly due to the reason that she knew him personally, and the Brahmin used to perform certain pujas at her home and would not demand a lot in return. She also knew about his poverty situation and knew what kind of a person this Brahmin was. So she said okay and left after delivering the baby. The midwife conveniently forgot about this interaction after a few days, and the boy started growing, and he had a keen interest in his father's hymns, and he was very interested to learn the scriptures and the mythological stories, and he spent hours with his mother and father during his childhood. The boy was totally accommodating himself in the family's poverty situation and never once bothered his family on it. He felt to himself that my parents are very loving even though we don't have much. And then life went on, and one day the boy transformed into a handsome young man, and now he had learnt all his father's hymns or bhajans, and by God's grace he had a great voice of his own, and the hymns that he used to sing was really unparalleled. One day, while chanting the hymns in front of a temple outside the village of Darbhanga, there was a crowd listening to him, and the reason being that there was tempting lure in his voice that people were automatically drawn to it. And when he was chanting his hymns, the people around him were listening. The king of a nearby kingdom was passing by when he heard this boy sing. The king was so mesmerized to hear this boy's voice, and the king went to him, and after his chants were over, the king asked him to please spread out both of his hands, and he just showered him with gold coins, and those gold coins just filled up his large artistic hands. The boy was so surprised that in such a poverty-stricken life, I was able to acquire gold coins. What a fate! And the king said that you deserve this. Such a great voice you have. The boy then took these gold coins and went to his parents and showed them that their days of poverty were now over. What a turnaround! To which the Brahmin remembered and said, this earning is not ours to be. Remembering the discussion with the midwife, I have already promised her, be it gold, silver or copper coins, but your first earning would be given to the midwife, and we have to keep our promise. The midwife was now over 60 years old. The boy told his father that I am blessed. Instead of these gold coins, I just am blown away by your generous mind. We lived in poverty all of our lives, but instead of clearing our poverty, you are so detached from it, and you would rather give it away. That just blows my mind, and I am so blessed to have you as my father, and that you are helping me to keep your promise of 18 years even though you got gold coins, and that too, that was my first earning without any compromises. They then went to the midwife, and the midwife, on hearing this, was shocked. She said she didn't expect this to happen. The Brahmin said that I am relieved of my promise now, and this is the clearing of my debt towards you. The midwife asked if they could split it. The Brahmin disagreed. The surprising part was that the boy gave it away far more easily, most importantly with happiness. He was very proud of his father that he kept his promise, and he said he hasn't met anyone like his father till date. they gave the gold coins to her, and both the father and son came back home happily. A few years later, both the mother and the father passed away, and a few decades later, the boy also passed away. A surprising thing to note here is that the mother and the father and son were born a few lifetimes later, and they come together again as a family. And the son was none other than, take your guesses, my friends. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar, in his birth during the Ramayana time frame, because of his closeness with his parents and a very calm mind that he acquired several births prior, as explained in the story. In this birth, he had to look after his parents and do all types of household chores throughout the day. As his parents were unable to see, so he had to do all the work for them. None of the wishes of his parents remained unfulfilled as a reason of that, as he always tried his best to fulfill every wish of his parents. At the desire of his parents only, they went to a pilgrimage. The most obedient Shravan Kumar showed around his parents and was always with them. The unfortunate incident, however, that happened when Shravan went to get some water in order to quench their thirst. Shravan left his parents and went to a river, Sarayu, to bring water for them. King Dasharatha, who was on his hunting expedition, mistook the sound of Shravan dipping the container to collect water for his parents to be a deer that was drinking water. He aimed his arrow, and the arrow breezed through the air and pierced straight into the chest of Shravan Kumar. When King Dasharatha found Shravan, he told the king in a trembling voice not to worry for him. He told that he came to the river to get some water for his thirsty parents. King Dasharatha took the water to his parents, but they refused, stating that they wanted the king to take them to their dying son. The parents said that as they could not tolerate their son's death, that similarly the King Dasharatha would also face the same consequences one day. He would also die due to his own son's loss. So you see, Shravan Kumar was a devout son to his parents, not just in his present life of the Ramayana, but many lives prior to it. The main reason why Shravan was specifically chosen for this sacrifice, and this test happened well ahead of time, and such a test was explained in the story. We have to understand that we don't get elevated births unless we ace all God's tests that come to us, and we have to pass them with flying colors. How did you like the video? Please do let me know in the comment section below. I will see you next week with a new video.